Hello, how's it going? It's Potato back again with another Professor Potato video. Today I'm going to be going over how to, become a better player in just about any game that you play. This isn't going to be only relevant to Destiny 2, it's going to be relevant to any game that you play. If you play like Valorant, if you play Counter-Strike, if you play Destiny 2, it's going to be relevant in all of those. But the examples I'm going to use today are going to be relevant mostly for Destiny 2. First thing I'm going to talk about is recording gameplay. In my opinion, recording gameplay is one of the biggest things that you need to be able to do. I would recommend Shadowplay, but you either record full games or you use instant replay and you record things that you want to watch back in the future. What that does is it lets you see where you messed up, see what mistakes you made more clearly, and take more time to think about what you could have done differently and what you missed or might have missed in the moment. And I think it's very important to be able to have gameplay recordings available to you if you want to improve at it as fast as you can, become the better player. Apart from that, the very first thing you should focus on if you're trying to get better is your mentality. If you're trying to improve as fast as you can, you need to have the mentality of what could I have done differently to have won that engagement. A lot of people, they go to the game, they die to, for example, a sniper, they complain about him sitting in the back of the map, oh he's sniping, there's nothing you can do about that, but you've got to think, instead of complaining, oh he's sniping in the back, you think, what could I have done differently? For example, if he's on Radiant Cliffs, is a good example, is if he's sniping in the back of this spawn right here.
This is not right, this is not cool.
Pretty long loading time. I was hoping to segue into it pretty well, but Destiny 2 said, nope, not today. So for example, we got this back spawn over here. Say you die to a sniper back here, sitting all the way in the back. I have a shotgun equipped, but say you're sniping back here. Instead of complaining about him sniping in the back, you gotta think about what could I have done differently. Could I have, for example, instead of peeking that long lane, went through B and attacked from the left side, shot him in the side of the head? Stuff like that. That's the very first thing that you need to focus on with your mentality, is less complaining, more what could I have done. And the second thing I would say is you should set goals and think about what you're bad at and set your goals focused on, or not what you're bad at, but what you want to improve at. So if you want to improve, for example, you're a good sniper and you want to improve at shotgunning, you focus purely on shotgunning for a game or two or three or four or however long you want to focus on that, and you think about that in particular and what could you have done better as a shotgunner in those situations to, for example, get more kills or to not die in certain situations. An example was how I died in the last over there in that corner. For example, what I could have done is, instead of completely just running in and going for the guy that I knew was weak, and then still following in and going for the melee kill on the second guy, I instead melee and hand cannon him. Stuff like that. You just have to think about that and just focus on that type of stuff when you're trying to improve at the game. For the rest of the video, I'm going to split it up into two separate things, which are solo improvements and team improvements. So first off, I'm going to start off talking about solo improvement, and that's more so of improving yourself as a player, as a, individual. It's less so focused on playing trials as a team, playing with your teammates, but more so realizing what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And I'm gonna start off with, in a game that you recorded, look through the deaths that you got in that one game and try and through that game, look at all your deaths and look at what they came down to. Look at why you died in those games. And there's generally three different things that I would classify deaths at, which is mechanical skill, which is just I missed my shots and I died. Positioning was good, everything was good, but I was just bad at the game and I, aimed over there when the target was right there. Second thing would be bad positioning. If you die because you're hitting your shots but you're out of position, for example, like right here, that guy was out of position. If he didn't have Wormhusk and he died, that was a bad positioning by him to fight. The third thing I would say would be either poor decision making or poor choices of using your abilities. For example, you use your abilities in the wrong time, or you're not completely in sync with your ability cooldowns and you push in where you don't have them up, like I do frequently with my melee. So there's your three categories: either mechanical skill, bad positioning, or poor choices and ability misuse and, basic game knowledge. And you look throughout a game or two, or maybe three or four, look through bad games too, not just, games where you do well. And you go through and see, where am I dying the most? Am I dying the most because I can't hit my shots? Am I making bad choices? Am I pushing stuff I shouldn't be pushing? Or am I just using my abilities poorly? Am I just make bad choices throughout the whole game? Push alone, stuff like that. So now that you've written down why you're dying into those three categories, that is when you make the choice of what you focus on. Say majority of your deaths are from mechanical skill, and you're just missing all of your shots, but you're in good positions, you're in positions with your teammates that are able to help you out. That's when you focus on doing some aim training. For example, Kovacs is very good, and if you don't want to use Kovacs, if you don't want to pay the 5 or however much it is right now, you can use aim labs, and you just focus on trying to get better at aiming your gun. If you have poor positioning and you're always out in the open in a bad spot, like if you're here in your fighting a guy over there who has cover and you're just dying because he's using his cover and killing you from his cover, then you focus on playing around cover better. Take a game or 2 or 3 like I said before, and you focus on always being near cover, always being able to get away from a situation, having an exit plan, rather than always being out in the open, like over here in the open taking fights. And then the next thing for individual improvement, once you're focusing on the things that you're trying to improve at, I would highly recommend first focusing on improving in more casual game modes where you have less stress on you. Don't go into trials and, you know, trying to improve at everything that you just learned you're bad at in trials, because you're going to still be bad at it. And you're going to be costing your team games, you're going to be stressed out, you're not going to be having a good time. And the very first thing I would recommend is either play like quick play, or, you know, if you're already at 5500, good for you, and then just play comp if you want to have a semi-competitive experience where there's no stress on you. But overall, just play something where you're not going to be stressed out when you're playing, because being stressed out while you're playing just doesn't lead to, and that's an initial improvement. Of course, in the end, you're going to need to practice at a high level if you want to get better at a high level. But initially, if you're bad at something, you can practice it in quick play to get better, and then once you feel like you're at a decent enough level, you can start practicing that in actual important matches. Next up, I'm going to be going into some team improvements and stuff that you can do as a team to get better. And this is more focused towards trials and survival for if you're playing in a 2-stack or a 3-stack. The first thing in a team environment is communication is the most important thing. If you and your teammate are on the same page, you are going to do so much better than if you two are thinking separate things in the same situation. 2 people pushing in is way harder to deal with than 1 person pushing in one by one. And that's where communication comes in. You need to learn callouts and talk with your team about every important thing that happens if you want to play to your best abilities. First thing you should talk about, or you should learn, is the callouts in the maps and call out where important people on the map are. For example, if you know that Zepmaster over here is a sniper and you're playing trials against him, and you know he's a blue warlock, and you see a blue warlock on the right side of the map on Roasted Vans, I believe is today's map, you see him inside the crumbled building on the right side of the map. You spawned by the water tank, and you see him there. You call out, "Snipers on the right side in the building," and your teammates instantly know that there's a sniper in the right side of the building. And this relates back to actually our last video, where I said in one of the tips for the snipers is that the most important thing is to move around and don't let the enemies know where you're at all times as a sniper. And it's important to, if you know where the sniper is, on the other hand, call out where the sniper is to your teammates, so they're able to play around where the sniper is and survive better, and not get sniped by a lane that they can't see in the radar, but there's a sniper at. And after enemy position callouts, next thing you should focus on is callouts of what plays you're making. So if you're going to be pushing in and you want your teammate to push in behind you, call it to your teammate, "Let's push this area of the map. Push with me." Tell them your plan, basically. Like, we push this, we kill 1 or 2 and we back off, or we keep pushing and we try and go for more and we keep control of the body, stuff like that. Very often I find people just running in alone in a lot of areas. One person runs in and then his teammate sees his teammate run in, and then the original person that ran in dies. His teammate's trying to come in and help him out, but he's so late. The second person also dies, just because the first person never said, "I'm pushing in." And they just took 2 separate 1v1s or 1v2s where they both just lost them. Compared to if the first person that runs in calls, "I'm pushing in, push with me," then they both end up taking a 2v1 or a 2v2 and they have a much higher chance of surviving. Nothing's guaranteed, of course, but pushing as a team is always more beneficial than pushing alone. In the second part, for team communication, one thing that I highly recommend is if you're going to trials and you know what map it is going to be this week, before you even head into trials, go into trials with your team, or go into a custom match with your team and talk about what you plan to do that game or this map, how you're going to play, and talk about a few simple things that you might want to do on that map. For example, on Dead Cliffs, I like doing a play on Dead Cliffs where my teammates take control of Crack House, that side of the map, while I'm going on the right side of the map and I hover outside of the map and snipe and try and get a pick. One thing that I would do is I would go into a private match beforehand and tell them, "You guys, if we get this spawn on the map, you guys push aggressively and take control of the Crack House. I'll push right, I'll get a pick. If I do get a pick, you guys need to both push in. If I don't, then I'll regroup with you and we take it from there." Stuff like that, just so everyone's on the same page. Like I said before, I find that pre-match talk is almost just as important as during the game talk, just so that you both know what you're going to be doing. Okay, so the third part I'm going to talk about for getting better overall is going to be watching better players than yourself and seeing what they do and see if you can take anything from them, like their habits, how they play, anything that would potentially help you out. in your own gameplay. There's a lot of really good players to watch in any game that you go to. Look at Panda and Onyx, for example. Go to any of those streams if you're trying to either snipe or shotgun, depending on what they're doing at the time, and watch them, watch their habits, see how they play, and compare it to yourself. See if you can take anything that'll help you play better from their play styles. And I think that's honestly one of the fastest ways of getting better at anything, is watching the better players play and seeing what they do and taking stuff out of their gameplay. So there you go. Those are the fastest ways to improve at just about any game that you play, either if you want to improve as a team or if you want to improve as an individual player. And just keep in mind, you can never stop improving. You can always be better. You should always, if you want to get better, focus on these few things that I talked about, and you're gonna end up being a better player by the end of it. Other than that, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and hopefully you guys can all become better players after focusing on these things I talked about in the video.